The narrative begins inside Takenomiya Shopping Mall during a promotional campaign. A young girl joins the activity and receives a printed photo beside Panbu, the panda mascot. Inside the costume, the performer is hot and struggling to breathe, but keeps going, driven by a strong duty to protect the town's dreams. During the event, a boy walking through the mall notices trouble ahead. Two children are pushing Panbu onto the ground and treating the mascot roughly. He quickly steps in to stop them. At first, the children do not take him seriously. They try to continue their behavior, but he intervenes firmly again. Instead of simply scolding them, he gives them a reason to behave properly. Eventually, the children realize their mistake. They apologize and leave. After they leave, the boy lifts Panbu from the ground and helps him stand. The suit makes movement difficult, and the person inside struggles because visibility is unclear. When the mascot looks at the boy, he notices that the boy is wearing his school uniform. After helping, the boy begins to walk away. The mascot considers how to properly thank him. He moves forward and gives the boy a small Panbu keychain. The boy looks at the item, accepts it, and shows appreciation before leaving. The mascot remains silent, since speaking in front of customers is not allowed. The scene then shifts to a room focusing on a girl drinking water. Another girl approaches her and recognizes her effort, expressing appreciation for her work. Hannah listens and replies that she's getting used to the work. She adds that it also helps her control her eating habits. Her friend becomes confused. She questions Hannah's thinking and reminds her that she is still in her first year and should eat properly at this stage of life. Her friend shares her own condition, explaining that she can no longer handle heavy sweets because they make her feel unwell. She advises Hannah to eat enough to maintain her strength and reminds her that even in a cooled shopping area, exhaustion is still a risk. She tells Hannah to signal if she starts feeling unwell. Hannah understands. Nearby, a mascot costume lies on the floor, and she looks at it thoughtfully. She realizes how physically demanding the job as the mascot performer is, but also feels it suits her since it does not require speaking. Later that night, she sits at home eating and reflects on her day. For the first time, the work felt uncomfortable. She wonders if she handled everything correctly. The next day in class, Hannah opens her bag and notices chopsticks, though she does not remember asking for. This makes her realize her earlier response may not have been clearly understood. Her friend comments that Hannah's voice is hard to hear, then asks how she eats so much without gaining weight. She wonders if the part-time job is the reason. Hannah explains that she has recently lost weight quickly. Curious, her friend expresses interest in trying the job for a day. Since Hannah's boss is also her friend's mother, she already knows about Hannah's role as the mascot. Hannah says the work is manageable. Her friend brings up the rule about not sharing details outside of work, saying she would find it difficult and uncomfortable to keep such a secret. Hannah doesn't see it the same way. She feels keeping it private is not a problem and believes the job suits her. At that moment, two girls approach them. They notice Hannah is eating earlier than usual and inform her that the next lesson will be held in the audiovisual room with another class. In the audiovisual room, several students gather around Ubukata, focusing on a small panda keychain he has. They recognize it as a mascot from Takenomiya Station and recall that its design came from a public contest. Someone mentions knowing a person who submitted an entry, while another assumes it came from a capsule machine. Hannah sits nearby, feeling sleepy after eating. As she listens quietly, she overhears someone say that a person helped a panda at the mall the previous day and received that item. Hearing this, she quickly looks toward Ubukata and realizes he is the one who helped her while she was inside the costume. Her sudden movement draws attention from nearby girls, who worry they were being too loud. Hannah assures them it's fine. She reflects on how close she came to revealing the truth, realizing she almost exposed her identity as the panda. She admits to herself that she got too excited. At that moment, another boy approaches Ubukata, shows interest in the keychain, and suggests others should get one too. Hannah notices she has the same keychain attached to her bag and worries it might attract attention. As she tries to remove it, it slips and falls. Ubukata picks it up and returns it to her. As she turns back, a teacher enters and tells everyone to face forward, starting the lesson. Ubukata's friend remarks that he usually isn't interested in trends and wonders if the keychain is the same as his, questioning whether it has become popular. Ubukata explains he noticed it at the mall and liked it. Hannah, sitting in front, hears everything. She lowers her head, feeling shy. Her friend notices and wonders if she feels unwell from eating too much. Hannah gently shakes her head. She feels happy but hides her embarrassment, reminding herself the comment wasn't directed at her. After class, a few girls approach Hannah and apologize for interrupting earlier. They want to know where the item can be obtained. Hannah explains it is given out at special Panbu events. Since that sounds vague, she adds that such events will likely happen again soon. The girls thank her and leave satisfied. As they go, Ubukata and his friend pass by. Ubukata briefly glances at Hana before continuing on when questioned. The scene shifts to Hana and her friend discussing how Panbu is gaining attention. Many students are asking about the keychain, and they consider how the character might become even more popular. Their conversation leads them to believe Panbu will attract even more interest. Meanwhile, Ubukata reflects quietly and decides to keep putting in effort the next day. The following day at a cafe, a boy stands at the entrance holding a drink and a bag, facing Panbu. The mascot reacts in surprise. Inside the costume, Hana is caught off guard and accidentally makes a sound. She quickly realizes her mistake and worries about being recognized. Earlier, staff had reminded everyone to stay in character at all times. No speaking and no removing the costume, even away from customers. Now standing before Ubukata, Hana is startled and internally questions why he is there. Unable to speak, she communicates by writing, thanking him for helping her the previous day. He replies it was nothing and says he was just passing by. She continues expressing gratitude. While reading her writing, he compliments how neat it is. Hana feels slightly embarrassed. He then inquires whether she is often treated badly or bullied. She explains it only happened once and that staff are usually nearby. He continues with more questions, about whether she feels hot and about her age. She responds through writing and gestures, indicating she is around 20 and a college student. She also explains the panda costume concept started 2 years ago. He then brings up the keychain she gave him and wonders where it can be bought. She writes that it is not for sale and is only given to lost children during events. He says he will take good care of it. Afterwards, she leaves feeling happy, thinking he is kind. She also notices he is wearing the keychain. Later, she returns to the ice cream shop in costume with 3 more keychains. Ubukata is surprised and asks why she brought so many, saying he doesn't need that many, though he accepts one. Hana briefly wonders if one of the girl holds more meaning than the others. At that moment, a small child appears nearby, crying and clearly lost. Ubukata notices immediately and asks Hana for help. The child is difficult to calm. Hana tries, but it remains challenging. He focuses on keeping the child safe and calls for assistance. Mall staff are contacted, and they are instructed to take the child to the information counter. Hana stays close, helping until the child's mother arrives. She apologizes and explains the situation, and the child finally calms down. After everything is resolved, Ubukata thanks Hana for her help. She reflects on how difficult it was. Ubukata checks if she is okay. Both feel relieved, gaining a stronger sense of cooperation and awareness of helping others. Hana gestures that the costume has become dirty and needs cleaning. Ubukata helps, acknowledging how difficult the job is. Later in the changing area, Hana removes the costume and inspects it. She realizes visibility is very limited, making movement and reactions harder. However, improving visibility might create structural or safety issues, leaving her uncertain. After finishing her work, she heads toward the station, reflecting on her role in helping others and protecting the town. While standing there, she suddenly notices Ubukata nearby, which surprises her. She feels that bowing would be awkward since they wouldn't normally interact like this. Ubukata greets her casually and jokingly asks if she came to meet Panbu. She becomes flustered. He offers her ice cream, and they sit together on a bench. She says it tastes good. He explains he works part-time there and wanted to thank the panda-costumed helper. He adds that the panda was helpful during the situation and apologizes if that sounds strange. Hana feels uneasy and thinks staying longer might cause problems. She thanks him and prepares to leave. Before she goes, he believes that she gave hers to the girls in his class. Hana says she still has it but removed it for practical reasons. He wonders why as the keychain is being talked about at school. She muses that most people wouldn't notice in such detail. But as he tells her that she can keep it since he already has one. She thanks him again. He then comments that she and the panda seem similar, adding that hiding such an identity might not be as easy as she thinks. Hana pauses, unsure how to respond, then quietly leaves. Hana's boss is approached by 2 crying children. They complain about their experience and insist that Panbu tricked them. Taking it seriously, the boss sees it as a violation of the rules and reacts strictly, deciding that Hana will lose her job. Hana suddenly wakes up in fear. She realizes it was all a dream. As she fully regains her senses, she remembers Ubukata's earlier comment about how she resembles the mascot. She also remembers the warning that came with it. This makes her more cautious. She decides that keeping distance from him is safer. At the same time, she cannot ignore that he has treated her kindly. She thinks about her responsibility toward the hopes of the town. In the end, she decides that she still needs to confirm one final doubt for her own reassurance. The next morning, she goes to school and approaches Ubukata. She brings up his earlier remark about her resembling the mascot and wants to know what he meant. Her question confuses him, making him worry that he may have said something rude without realizing it. She quickly clarifies that she is only curious, though she still seems uncertain. As she watches him, she starts to feel like he can see through her more than she is comfortable with. His focused attention unsettles her, and she steps back from the conversation. She gives a brief apology and leaves. Afterward, she reflects on her behavior and wonders if she is being overly cautious around him. To calm herself, she thinks about her upcoming outdoor shifts, expecting fewer chances of running into him there. She reassures herself that keeping her distance while working as the mascot will be enough. Later, Hannah's boss tells her about an upcoming traffic safety event. The celebrity guest who was supposed to appear can no longer attend, so the organizers decide to have Panbu take the role instead. Hannah feels excited, recognizing it as an important opportunity. Her boss adds that while it is valuable, the location could create risk exposing her identity in front of her school. At a basketball court, a traffic police officer addresses the crowd and introduces the special guest. Panbu appears wearing a one-day traffic chief uniform and cap. A group of students reacts with surprise and confusion, as they were expecting a celebrity rather than a mascot. They question why a panda has taken the place of the guest. Inside the costume, Hannah reflects on how she was standing among them as an ordinary student a while ago. Before the event, her boss had spoken to her privately, warning her to be completely sure about participating. She had also pointed out that if Hannah's identity were revealed at school, they might not be able to protect her. At the venue, students look around for Hannah, assuming she is absent and wondering where she went. To avoid suspicion, her friend Sasaki tells them Hannah ate too much at lunch and is in the restroom. Hearing this from inside the costume, Hannah feels slightly uneasy, but accepts that it helped protect her identity. Meanwhile, the traffic officer continues the safety demonstration, describing the dangers of walking while using a mobile phone. The students remain distracted, showing little interest. An older man becomes frustrated and firmly tells them to pay attention. Ubukata is there with his friend, quietly observing. His friend becomes curious and suggests taking pictures with Panbu. The officer informs them that a photo session will happen later and asks them to wait. Ubukata's friend reacts positively, saying he is in a good position for photos, but Ubukata dismisses him with mild annoyance. After the event, the officer thanks Hannah's boss and the staff. One assistant remarks that Kaori looks similar to her daughter. Kaori, Hannah's boss, immediately cuts the conversation short and tells the assistant to take Panbu away, believing Hannah has reached her limit. While standing nearby, Kaori notices a ball roll toward her. A child calls out for help, and she kindly returns it. As she looks ahead, she spots a boy in the crowd and calls out to him, telling him to wait. The scene shifts back to the mascot area. Kaori's assistant guides the panda away from the main space. While walking, the assistant comments on the mascot's movements, saying he has never seen her like this. As they continue, Mr. Scheig approaches and asks for a moment. Inside the costume, Hannah tenses, fearing he has recognized her and imagining serious consequences, including suspension from school. Instead, he politely requests a photograph, saying his grandchild is a fan. The mood becomes light, and Hannah feels relieved, glad she accepted the role despite her earlier fears. Soon after, the assistant says they need to stop briefly near the restroom and steps away, leaving Hannah alone for a moment. She begins to feel dizzy and unwell. While resting, Ubukata arrives and notices her condition. He wonders if she is lost and suggests informing a teacher. Hannah struggles to respond because of her condition and the costume. Realizing she is not well, he offers to guide her somewhere cooler and leads her toward the stairs, where there is better airflow. The change helps her feel slightly better. While there, he brings up whether she had waved at him earlier during the event. Hannah recalls a moment when the crowd was distracted and realizes he was the one who had been paying attention. He expresses regret for not reacting at the time, adding that he is used to not receiving responses and doesn't think much of it. He acknowledges the brief moment with a small sense of recognition. He then checks if she is feeling better. Hannah responds with a small gesture indicating she is. He says he is glad and suggests she rest, mentioning he needs to return soon. Hannah remains seated, thinking about whether he has already gone back to class and realizing she should also leave soon. Later, Ubukata returns and says he had planned to introduce her to someone, but that person has already left. He mentions that the girl is very fond of the panda mascot and becomes genuinely happy when people say they resemble it. Hannah feels unsettled, silently wondering if he meant her. Afterward, she removes the costume and heads to the nurse's office, still overheated. Once out of the suit, she notices bruises and marks on her body. She enters and announces herself. Ubukata is already there. He tells her the teacher is absent and offers to call them if needed. She declines, pointing out that his presence suggests he might not be feeling well either. He clarifies that he is part of the health committee. He guides her to sit and instructs her to fill out a form and place it in a drawer. As she begins writing, he takes the pen and fills it out for her, carefully noting her class and name. While doing so, he brings up the cause of her injuries. Hana gives a simple answer, saying she fell. He seems doubtful, noting the injuries look more serious. Hana quietly notices his handwriting is more balanced than hers. He then wonders if she was able to see the panda mascot earlier. She confirms that she did, and he responds with satisfaction. While applying bandages, Hana recalls his earlier mention of introducing her to someone. She thinks about it, but decides there is no way to confirm it now, reminding herself again to keep her distance. As she finishes and starts to move, she loses her footing and drops her papers. Ubukata quickly supports her and steadies her, reminding her to rest properly before helping her sit back down. Hana thanks him. When he asks why, she gives a general answer, referring to his kindness. He then returns to her earlier question and shares his reasoning, saying the similarity comes from how both of them give their full effort to what they do. Hana reacts emotionally, but tries to hide it. Internally, she feels that getting closer to him may not be wise, not only because of her secret, but for other reasons as well. As she shifts slightly, she loses her balance again and slips from the chair once more. One day, while working, Hana begins to think about a recent change. She has become very quick at noticing Ubukata at school and often recognizes him without even trying. She considers that being observant is not wrong, but she cannot ignore her uneasiness. In her mind, he is no longer just someone to be careful around. She now sees him as someone dangerous. At the same time, Ubukata is sitting in a cafe with two of his friends. They talk about their physical education classes, mentioning long-running sessions and tired legs. They also complain about having more responsibilities afterward. One of them wishes for an easy way to get home. The conversation then shifts to imaginary abilities. They ask Ubukata what he would choose. He thinks for a moment and selects X-ray vision. His friends react with discomfort and warn him that speaking like this openly could cause problems. Later at school, Hana asks Yukachi about running and physical education. She questions how Yukachi plans to participate when she usually cannot complete the activities. Yukachi explains that only students in sports clubs take running seriously, and Hana is one of the few others who does the same. She adds that Hana is not very skilled in sports, but her endurance is very strong. A girl sitting nearby brings up the fitness test from earlier in the year. Hana begins to think about that test. She remembers it as the moment she first became connected with Panbu. She also recalls that it was her first proper interaction with Yukachi. During that time, she was approached with an offer for a part-time job because of her stamina. Before the race begins, an announcement is made. It states that the class with the most students in the top group will receive a reward. It also warns that the route will be shared with others, so everyone must stay careful. Hana is sitting when she suddenly notices Ubukata. Her body reacts out of habit, and she almost responds as she does during work. Then she realizes she is not Panbu and stops herself. A signal is given, and the race begins. Everyone starts running. While running, Hana thinks about earlier events. She considers how things might have been different if she were in her usual costume. She questions her own thoughts and reminds herself that she is used to being unnoticed. She focuses on running and thinks about her class goal. She does not aim for a top rank. She only wants to run with full effort. She decides not to think about Ubukata anymore. However, she runs past him in an unusual way. He notices her movement and feels it is familiar. His attention shifts toward her, and his friend finds his sudden focus strange. Hana looks back for a moment and realizes she has already passed him. She then notices that he is following behind her. Other runners talk about the situation and mention the competition between them. Another student moves toward Ubukata and pushes him from the side. Ubukata loses balance, falls forward, and collides with Hana. Both of them fall to the ground. They continue after the fall, but the situation draws attention. People nearby look toward them and react with concern. Some assume it is accidental, while others question the intent behind it. The boy responsible shows hesitation and regret, while his friend urges him to make things right later. Hana and Ubukata regain their balance and look at each other. He checks her condition and acknowledges that she was affected because of him. The surroundings carry an unpleasant smell, and a nearby notice reminds people to clean up after their animals. Hana cleans her hands while thinking about the situation. She connects it to her earlier thoughts and considers it an unfortunate result linked to Panbu's curse. Ubukata approaches again and offers her a way to handle the mess properly instead of leaving it behind. She shows concern about his clothing, but he does not treat it as important. She then indicates that he should continue without worrying about her. They resume moving, but their pace changes. Hana holds on to a piece of cloth between them, keeping a small distance while still staying connected. She becomes aware that they may be drawing attention, especially since she was the one who initiated this approach. Ubukata continues alongside her, adjusting to her pace as he relies on her guidance due to his limited vision. He focuses only on keeping up with her movement, which allows him to continue despite not seeing clearly. Hana realizes that guiding someone like this creates a sense of ease, similar to leading someone through uncertainty. She maintains her hold and keeps moving forward while staying aware of the path. They slow down and briefly sit. Hana remains cautious about the condition of the clothing she is holding, not wanting to make it worse. Ubukata reflects on her earlier pace and questions her effort. He also considers that running in this way may make things more difficult, yet he continues to follow her lead as they prepare to move again. As they continue along the route, Hana stays slightly ahead. She holds the piece of cloth that connects them, and Ubukata follows her pace, relying on her movement to guide him forward. He no longer depends on his sight and focuses only on matching her speed. Hana notices this and looks back at him. She realizes her presence is helping him move more steadily. A memory comes to her mind of a similar moment before, when guiding someone forward made things easier in uncertain conditions. That memory connects with the present as she keeps running. They slow down briefly and face each other while still connected. She adjusts her grip and signals that she will guide him carefully. She wants him to avoid obstacles, so her attention stays fixed on the path ahead as she continues leading him forward. After some time, she lifts the fabric closer to her face while running. She becomes more aware of the situation and remembers that she is wearing his jacket. She does not want to damage it. Ubukata notices her change in pace and questions it. He realizes she was moving faster before and also thinks running like this may be difficult. Still, he continues to follow her lead as they move forward together. Hana thinks to herself that she will run with all her strength. She notices a board ahead showing that only 1 kilometer remains. They continue running together. The finish line feels close. Suddenly, the cloth slips from Ubukata's hand. Hana immediately grabs his hand instead. He is surprised, but she keeps holding him and continues running. They finally finish the race in 67th place. Ubukata's friend comments on his position, while the announcer urges others not to slow down in the final stretch. The atmosphere becomes more intense as they near the end of the race as Hana cheers her friend. Meanwhile, Ubukata puts his glasses back on. When she sees him clearly, he appears slightly different to her now. Ubukata raises his hand from a distance and signals with his fingers. Hana thinks it looks like a game gesture and responds in the same way. He forms another sign, and she reacts again. He then smiles and turns away while still moving forward. Hana wonders if he allowed her to win. After he leaves, Hana notices his jacket. She holds it closer while running and smells it. She thinks it smells pleasant, but then realizes something and runs away, prompting her friends to comment on her stamens. Later, Hana is standing in the locker room, lost in thought. She wonders if Ubukata is working today as well. She also thinks about stopping by for ice cream on her way home. At that moment, Kaori comes to the door and asks if she can enter. Hana allows her in. Kaori comes inside and expresses appreciation for Hana's hard work. She then shares sudden news. A new teammate has joined the team. He is from the same high school as Hana, and Kaori asks if they know each other. Hana looks at the new teammate and immediately recognizes him. She remembers him from the race. He was the one who caused her and Ubukata to fall, and she identifies him as the same person from that incident. Kori approaches Hana and informs her about a newly introduced character joining the performance team. She becomes worried and assumes that Panbu might have been removed from his position. Kori immediately clarifies that this is not the case and explains that Panbu will remain active and has simply been assigned a partner. She explains that a new performer, Mamiya Ryuji, was discovered during a recent road safety promotion event and has now been brought into the group. He is being prepared to appear on stage during the upcoming Tanabata celebration, where he will work alongside Panbu. Kaori emphasizes that he must carefully follow Panbu's guidance in order to train properly and perform well. Hana reacts with confusion as she thinks about Panbu in a senior role and tries to understand the situation. Kaori then encourages her to support the new performer as part of the team's cooperation. Although Hana questions how she is expected to help, Kaori insists that her encouragement is important. Hana watches Mamiya and tries imitate his actions while wearing the Panbu costume, but is left exhausted. The next day in class, Hana sits alone during lunch. Her classmates notice her quiet behavior and observe that her lunchbox looks smaller than usual. They begin wondering what is wrong with her. Yukachi reasons that Hana has recently been struggling. A new junior at her part-time job has been performing better than her, which has made her feel discouraged. The classmates respond with sympathy and say they feel sorry for her situation. Yukachi also mentions that the work involves a lot of physical effort. One of the girls reacts with surprise and says the job sounds very difficult. Hana continues eating alone while thinking about her situation. She feels unable to manage the detailed stage movements required for her performance work. She believes she cannot properly handle the role while wearing the Panbu costume. She also thinks about her new partner and feels overwhelmed by him. His height, voice, and movements feel too intense for her to manage. Even though Ubukata is tall, she realizes she does not feel the same pressure around him. Later, she goes near Ubukata's classroom and quietly observes him, hesitating as she wonders whether it is the right time to speak. Ubukata notices her presence and comes outside, asking if she needs something. Hana denies it and calls his name directly, which confuses him for a moment. He asks if she is referring to him. Mamiya, who is sitting inside the classroom, notices both of them from a distance. Ubukata suggests that she could have entered the classroom normally instead of waiting outside. Hana responds that he is the only friend she feels comfortable approaching. After saying this, she realizes she has spoken too casually and apologizes for calling him her friend without asking. Ubukata replies that he does not mind and confirms their friendship. He then asks what she should call him since he has never asked before. Hana says that anything is fine, though most people call her Hana. Ubukata then calls her by her name warmly. Hearing this, Hana quietly leaves the area. Later, she suddenly feels a brief moment of confidence and thinks she can handle anything for a moment. Hana and Mamiya continue practicing in their costumes. Their coordination remains poor, and he keeps correcting her. Mamiya points out that her movements are incorrect, while Hana insists on her own way. The tension between them gradually increases. Mamiya becomes frustrated and asks if he can leave early. He also suggests that someone else should replace him for the performance day. Kaori observes their situation and quietly considers the possibility of finding a replacement. Mamiya, irritated, walks away, saying he does not want to look foolish. Kaori then informs Hana that she can take a break from another task she was assigned, as she is already under pressure. Hana begins to think deeply. She wonders if someone else should take over Panbu's role. She feels that if she is only causing problems, replacement might be better. While lost in these thoughts, she moves forward in her costume, but her foot hits a box. She loses balance and becomes stuck at a doorway. Kaori notices her and rushes to help, but she cannot manage alone and calls for assistance. After being freed, Kaori apologizes for the situation. A nearby helper calmly reassures them and helps settle the moment. Hana watches him and feels that he is kind and supportive. The helper mentions that he feels motivated by Panbu's presence and leaves after expressing admiration for the character. Kaori then tells Hana that the man they just met is actually a fan of Panbu. He had come specifically hoping to see the performance. Before leaving, Kaori gives him an invitation pamphlet for the upcoming event. The pamphlet announces Panbu's surprise stage appearance at 6 in the evening. The man, later recognized as Ubukata, becomes interested and decides to attend. After he leaves, Kaori tells Hana that he had heard their conversation. She adds that he seemed kind and attentive, and that Hana will need to do her best for the performance because of the support they are receiving. Hana reflects on the encounter. She remembers the gentle voice and calm presence of the person who helped them and compares it in her mind to Ubukata's demeanor. She briefly feels that she does not want a replacement anymore and decides she will try her best on stage. Kaori reassures her with encouragement and reminds her that she understands the pressure. Hana then thinks about Panbu and how giving full effort is important. She realizes that even if she cannot be perfect, there are still things only she can do as Panbu. At Takenomiya Central Park, during the 13th Takenomiya Tanabata Festival, Hana arrives at the venue. She feels extremely nervous and struggles to stay calm. She wonders if everything will go well and feels mentally overwhelmed while preparing for the performance. As she tries to calm herself, she steps away for a short walk. During this moment, she unexpectedly meets Ubukata. He recognizes her and asks if it is really Hana. She is surprised and asks why he is there. Ubukata replies that he is working, serving customers during the festival. Hana becomes even more anxious, as she feels she may forget the performance steps she memorized. Her nervousness increases further. She wishes him good luck before trying to leave. Ubukata stops her and offers her ice cream, insisting that it is on him. He invites her to take a short break together, calling her a friend. Hana is surprised but accepts and joins him. They walk together and eat ice cream while observing the festival atmosphere. Ubukata mentions that he is wearing a special outfit for work and feels slightly embarrassed wearing it outside his usual uniform. Hana listens and quietly thinks she should have dressed better, but she also feels relieved and happy that she met him as her nervousness begins to fade. They stand near a lake surrounded by greenery while continuing to eat ice cream. Ubukata asks if she came to the festival by chance. Hana responds that she lives nearby and came without a specific plan. Ubukata then suggests spending more time together. Hana becomes uncertain, thinking she should return soon. As she hesitates, he gently insists that she stay a little longer and moves slightly closer while speaking quietly. He informs her that a Panbu performance will take place after this and asks if she wants to watch it together. Hana becomes confused and unsure about what to do next. At that moment, Mamiya arrives and calls out to her, saying he has been searching for her and asking her to stop wandering. Hana is surprised and tells him she will return shortly and asks him to go ahead first. Mamiya grabs her hand and pulls her away, criticizing her judgment in choosing people to spend time with. He insists they leave immediately. Ubukata also holds her other hand, saying they were speaking first and should not be interrupted. Both Mamiya and Ubukata pull her in opposite directions while arguing over plans and priorities. Mamiya refuses to explain his intention, while Ubukata questions what is more important. The tension causes Hana pain as she feels pulled between them. Eventually, Ubukata releases her hand and she stumbles toward Mamiya, who catches her. He then decides they are leaving and takes her away. As they walk off, Hana apologizes to Ubukata and says goodbye while still feeling confused and uncomfortable. Mamiya continues pulling her away, still holding her hand firmly. After they leave, he reacts strongly, commenting on what just happened and expressing surprise at Ubukata's reaction. He mentions that it was the first time he had seen that side of him. Hana begins to worry. She wonders if she has made Ubukata angry. She remembers that he was kind to her earlier, treated her as a friend, and invited her to spend time together. She starts questioning whether she misunderstood the situation or caused a problem. Meanwhile, our lad reflects on Hana's words and actions, especially when she previously said Ubukata was her only friend in class. He begins to doubt whether that was truly honest. Hana stands near Mamiya, recalling how Ubukata once invited her to a Panbu special event. She remembers that she could not respond at the time, and that thought still lingers in her mind as she remains silent and uneasy. Mamiya notices her expression and asks whether she is worried that Ubukata might end up disliking her. He brings up Ubukata again and immediately dismisses the concern, saying there is no reason to be anxious. He explains that no matter how intensely he reacts or confronts Ubukata, he always remains calm and never shows anger. Hana asks why Mamiya holds such strong dislike toward Ubukata. Mamiya replies that it is because Ubukata irritates him. He recalls an incident after the entrance ceremony when they were assigned committee roles by drawing lots. Mamiya ended up in a situation he did not like, which led to frustration and conflict. He further adds that he suggested switching roles, mentioning that he had prior experience in the health committee from middle school and was fine with changing. However, misunderstandings and repeated awkward encounters followed, which disrupted his school life. He adds that his image as a popular student ended up being negatively affected. Hana reflects internally, reconsidering her impression of Mamiya and realizing he seems less intimidating than she first thought, though still somewhat unusual. At the same time, she believes Ubukata has not actually done anything wrong. Later, both of them prepare in costume for the Panbu performance. They practice together while still in character, trying to get into role despite the tension. Kaori observes them quietly from a distance without being noticed. An announcement is made for the final performance of the festival, introducing the grand closing act. The crowd is given a hint that the performers represent samurai protecting Takenomiya. Excitement builds as the stage is prepared for the final segment. Backstage, Kaori encourages Hana and her partner to go on. They step forward and take a deep breath before entering the stage area. Once the performance begins, Panbu appears and throws himself into action with full energy, swinging a prop sword and acting with intensity. However, in his enthusiasm, he loses balance and falls, which causes concern among the audience and staff. The announcer reacts in alarm, worried that the situation could disrupt the festival's closing event. Other performers in costume continue acting, pretending to consume the wishes written on festival strips, which increases the dramatic tension. Children in the audience react loudly, urging Panbu to continue and not give up. Inside, Hana becomes increasingly aware of her nervousness and uneven breathing. She struggles to stay composed while the situation on stage grows chaotic. A voice calls for someone to protect the remaining wishes, raising the stakes of the performance. At that moment, a new character in costume appears and steps into the scene as Panbu's new partner, taking on the identity of Doranosuke. He enters forcefully and engages with the unfolding situation, shifting the direction of the performance. Amid the chaos, Hana notices how loud the crowd reaction has become, but she forces herself not to be distracted. Instead, she focuses on continuing her role and reminds herself to endure a little longer. She believes that Ubukata is somewhere watching the performance. Eventually, the stage sequence reaches its conclusion, and the performance comes to an end as the festival's final act is completed. After the performance ends, Kaori carefully grooms the fur of both performers and praises their effort, saying they did an excellent job. She then turns to her assistant, mentioning that she needs to meet some people, and instructs that the performers be allowed to go and change. Around the same time, Hana is still in the Panbu costume and notices Ubukata nearby. She starts moving toward him, but the assistant quickly redirects her, assuming she is heading the wrong way and guiding her back. Hana hesitates, thinking about what she wants to say. She considers inviting him to go somewhere together, but feels uncertain, believing he may have already left. She worries about missing her chance and struggles with whether she should properly approach him to apologize. She quickly changes out of her costume afterward. As she prepares to leave, the assistant checks where she is going. Hana replies that she wants to visit a few shops outside and mentions that she is hungry. The assistant offers to buy something for her, but she declines and says she will return shortly before heading out. While walking away, Mamiya calls out to her. He brings up her earlier remark that Ubukata had done nothing wrong and questions her judgment, suggesting that being overly kind to everyone can seem suspicious. He adds that he has seen Ubukata upset several girls before and warns her to be careful, implying she might get hurt too. Hana continues on her way, carrying his words with her as she leaves the venue. As she walks, she reflects on Mamiya's warning. She believes she has already been careful, yet his words linger. She recalls how everything has been moving too quickly and how, once she became emotionally and physically caught up, it became difficult to slow down or control her thoughts. Distracted, she suddenly collides with Ubukata. He immediately steadies her and checks if she is all right, noticing she is out of breath and unsteady. Hana apologizes, explaining that her legs suddenly gave out. He checks again to make sure she is fine and suggests she sit down for a moment, but she insists she is okay and thanks him. He then wonders where she was heading in such a hurry. Hana hesitates before saying she wanted to apologize to him, even though he had gone out of his way to invite her earlier. Ubukata looks confused, referring to the Panbu situation and saying he didn't realize she already had plans. He also apologizes for inviting her so suddenly. Hana quickly reassures him that it's fine and there is no issue. She then brings up the Panbu performance, wanting to know if he saw it and what he thought. The conversation becomes slightly awkward as both hesitate and lose track of what they were saying. Hana feels embarrassed and struggles to continue her earlier thought. She decides to leave the rest for another time, suggesting they can talk later instead. After a brief pause, she says goodbye and walks away. As she leaves, she feels uneasy, wondering if the interaction became awkward. She tries to rationalize it, thinking about how she had used body mist before leaving, yet questioning whether the scent or her nervousness affected the moment. Meanwhile, a small misunderstanding about the scent leads to light teasing and confusion among the group. The assistant clarifies that a small amount of body mist had been used earlier, causing the scent to spread. Hana responds casually, saying it is fine since it was inexpensive, and jokingly describes the smell as unusual and hard to define. The assistant laughs at her comparison, while Mamiya reacts defensively when indirectly associated with the remark. Kaori then reminds everyone to head home safely, especially the high school students, before returning to her responsibilities. The group begins to disperse. Later, at the bus stop, Mamiya unexpectedly encounters Ubukata. Ubukata asks what he is doing there, and Mamiya replies that he is simply heading home. He then inquires whether he is a friend of Hana's. Mamiya denies being her friend and instead calls himself her partner. The next day, Hana is at the basketball court during lunch break, checking comments and mentions on her phone. She notices that most of the attention online is focused on Doranosuke rather than Panbu. She had expected more recognition for her performance and feels quietly disappointed, thinking that she had done well, but was still overshadowed. She reflects on how Mamiya performed impressively, yet she cannot accept that her own effort felt overlooked. She worries that attention will continue shifting away from Panbu and toward Doranosuke. Standing alone for a moment, she feels a quiet sadness. While Mamiya plays basketball nearby, Ubukata approaches Hana and calls out to her. He tells her that he has something for her and mentions her contact information. She is surprised by the suddenness and wonders why he is bringing it up now. She also realizes she never confirmed whether he had watched the performance and feels hesitant to bring it up herself. Ubukata says he sent her something. He mentions that he only managed to record a small part of the festival, but still wanted to share it since she was unable to see it properly. He then shows her a recording of the Panbu performance. Seeing the footage, she becomes emotional. Tears begin to form as she watches herself in the costume. She is surprised by her reaction, as she had not expected to cry. She recalls what she had heard about Ubukata making others emotional in the past, and briefly worries that this moment might be misunderstood. Ubukata notices her tears and becomes concerned, checking if she is all right and apologizing, thinking he may have done something wrong. He tries to comfort her and suggests watching the performance together in a lighter way. Hana quickly reassures him that she is fine. She realizes that what she is feeling is not sadness, but happiness. She feels moved by the memory of the performance and the effort behind it. She reflects that many people must have been emotionally touched by Ubukata's kindness, just as she is in that moment. Ubukata then wonders if she cried simply because she was happy to receive the video. Hannah confirms this, and he relaxes, accepting her answer. However, he then quietly brings up Mamiya, carefully watching her as he tries to understand whether her reaction is connected to him.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.